On this episode of the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by Riverwind Casino, we recap OU's win over UTEP and some of the other big games in week one of college football. And we finish up giving you our winners and losers of the weekend. Please download and subscribe to the podcast, rate it 5 stars, and write us a good review. Follow the show on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Just search Oklahoma Breakdown on any of those, and you'll find us. All right. Our man Michael Hosty will kick this thing off. It's time for the Oklahoma Breakdown. It's a beautiful Monday, September 5th, and you're listening to the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by Riverwind Casino. Riverwind is Oklahoma City's premier casino experience, and there are so many reasons why Riverwind is consistently voted OKC's #1 casino, but it all starts with their amazing variety of gaming thrills and excitement. Riverwind's beautiful award-winning environment plays host to more than 2,800 of the latest electronic games with a huge selection of table games, including blackjack, blackjack match, roulette, and Teddy's favorite, craps. No matter what your game, Riverwind has it in spades and hearts. Go gamble at Riverwind, people. Go have some fun there. And to learn more about their gaming promotions and entertainment options in the month of September, visit riverwind.com. Riverwind Casino, simply the best. Now we're recording this Sunday afternoon-ish. Please leave us a 5-star review and a nice comment. And Ted, the Oklahoma Sooners are 1-0.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing. Get
There
the
was a
first one out
pause
of the
there.
way.
That was a long pause. Everything okay?
No, everything's good. The first one is you can't win them all if you don't win the first one, right? And kind of like I talked about a little bit leading up to this first game, especially after watching like the week 0 stuff. It's not going to be championship form in week 1, right? It's going to be an improvement process week by week. I think there was a ton of really good things. There was some bad things, but I don't think I saw anything that can't be fixed.
Yeah. All right. The way we normally do this is Ted takes the defense. So if you're new to the podcast, Ted kind of recaps the defensive performance, and I kind of recap the offensive performance. So the Sooners beat UTEP 45-13 in Brent Venables' first game as head coach at Oklahoma. Let's start with the defense, man. What'd you think?
Well, it's one of those, it's a classic example of it's never as good as you think. It's never as bad as you think whenever you go back and watch the film. I thought defensively, it actually was really good. Whenever you just kind of look at the box score and absorb everything, no rushing play longer than 8 yards. Longest play of the day was a 24-yard gain. They defended a bunch of snaps out there, didn't give up very many yards, were excellent against the run, had 6 sacks, 9 tackles for loss, ended the game with an interception there. So the production was really good. I thought the biggest positive of the entire day was the tackling, open field tackling. Excellent. I went back and I watched most of the game, and I may have missed one as I was buzzing through it, but I don't know that there was a missed open field tackle that resulted in meaningful yards gained afterwards.
The only one I could think of was the one where Jaden Davis kind of they gave up a first down on it. Remember, he kind of jumped at his ankles, missed him. It kept the drive alive, but that's really the only one that I can kind of remember.
It was excellent. And what I loved is guys were vice tackling in position where they fit in the defense. They were grabbing cloth. They were pursuing to the football. If one guy did make a miss, it turned it back into the group where guys were right there to clean it up. I thought that was all excellent. And I thought the pressure on the quarterback was good at times. Other times we got stuck on blocks. I think that's going to be not necessarily a work in progress, but I expect there to be big leaps and bounds made on the pass rush by the defensive line. One of the things they're going to have to continue contend with rather is they're going to get schemed up some on what they do rushing the passer. Teams are going to try and get the ball out of their hands pretty quickly. All that stuff is fine. That's what you're going to see. If you've got a strong defensive line. I thought Redmond was really good when he was out there. Wasn't out there a whole lot, didn't feel like. Reggie Grimes had a really productive day. I thought Ethan Downs was really strong at the point of attack. R. Mason Thomas, you can see that as a true freshman, he has an impact. He's got a motor. He just needs a little bit of experience, and I think that's going to come pretty quickly for him. Linebackers, I thought, for the most part, were pretty good. I thought Agwebu had some really nice things he did out there. I thought Stutzman did some really nice things. What I'm most concerned about, or leading into the game, what I was most concerned about is how fluidly can they play within the defense? Is there pre-snap panic, trying to get lined up, trying to get adjusted whenever you can tell that a guy's not exactly sure where he's supposed to be? And I didn't see very much of that at all. There was a couple of things where leave coverage a little early to come up for the quarterback, or get bumped out of a gap a little bit, or you maybe don't come downhill fast enough. But all of those things I expect to get better week by week. Secondary, I thought the secondary was really, really good. Even though we gave up what it ended up being 250 plus passing yards. No one is going to want to hear this, but the quarterback for UTEP is really good. He's a really good football player. But I thought the coverage was tight. They made some plays. Some of the underneath stuff, the shorter routes underneath, and we were talking about this during the game. That's the nuanced stuff that is the hardest to deal with in some of these zones. It's the last thing to come. But I do feel like the backers, for the most part, sifted out a lot of the crossing routes really good. We're just going to get better as the season goes on, playing some of those things tighter. And, whenever you coordinate tighter zone coverage with guys putting pressure on the quarterback, that's whenever your pass defense is going to go to the next level. So all in all, if I was to grade it, I'd probably give it a B for the defense.
Yeah, I think, any time you hold an opponent to 0.9 yards a rush, you're doing something right. And UTEP, they simply couldn't run the ball efficiently throughout the game. That being said, and you and I were talking about this during the commercial breaks on the broadcast, I think the next step for the defensive line, especially the interior of the defensive line, is they gotta get a little better at disengaging from blocks. Right. A lot of leaning, like using their weight on it. It's like they got to get a little more proactive with their hands, and they've got to remove people from their person a little better. That's kind of one thing that stood out.
Yeah. Whenever I step back and look at the game and how it unfolded, and this is not an excuse, it's just something that is realistic. If you watch like the first group of snaps out of where the game started, and then out of the second half, there's pop, and there is explosiveness from the defensive line. The second quarter, where we ended up being stuck on the field for big portions of the game, it just the production and the pop and explosiveness from the defensive line just continued to sink and sink and sink. And that's one of those things where you've got to find a way to get off the field instead of letting them dink and dunk their way, for first downs and move the chains. But I think because the way the game unfolded at the beginning is the offense scored on their first three drives, like boom, 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 right down the field. And the defense was right back out there, and it just kind of sapped some of their energy. And that's going to be something that we have to watch, as fast as our offense goes, and kind of see how that unfolds throughout the year. But yeah, I agree. And I was pleasantly surprised with how good UTEP's offensive line looked. Now, maybe goes back to exactly what you're talking about. We're stuck on blocks.
Yeah,
But
I wouldn't describe me as being pleasantly surprised.
yeah.
I was kind of like, what the hell's going on here?
Well, I wanted to see a good matchup on the line of scrimmage. Like, I didn't want to play Alabama to get a look at how our defensive line is just yet, but I wanted someone that was,
They're very well coached.
Representative of what we're going to see with some offensive lines in the Big 12. There's going to be some offensive lines that are way better, but that group is fairly solid.
Yeah, and you think about guys that stood out on the defensive side. Thought Billy Bowman. I mean,
Yeah.
I understand the hype now. Like, he looks like, and remember, he's only going to get better, but his explosiveness, like his suddenness at that safety position, coming up, making tackles, his ability to break on routes there back in coverage, man, you can see it. You can see that he's the guy that can be a special player for this team.
Yep. No, I thought he looked good. I thought that, all things considered, I thought Stutzman looked pretty good. He had a bunch of positive plays, then he had some negative plays, and some of them were bad. And in the box, it was just a lot of playing too high. And he's already a taller kid, and you've really got to focus on getting your pads down. But I saw enough from him in game one, first start, true sophomore, where I feel really good that by the end of the summer or season rather, he's going to be playing really good.
Yeah. And then the Reggie Grimes performance was great. And his sacks, like, effort, right? Just playing hard as hell, and which is great to see. And after the game, he talked about, I guess his grandmother has paused her cancer treatment so that she could be at the game. And for him to ball out that way, the way that he did, have those 2.5 sacks, you could see how emotional he was, celebrating those plays on the field. Man, that was cool. That was really, really cool.
It was. Yeah, he had a big game, productive game. And he's big and he's physical on the edge. And that's kind of one of the things that there's a give and take. He's pushing close to 280 pounds, which helps him a lot in the run. And I think he just needs to get a little more refined with some of his pass rush techniques. And I think that stuff's going to come. And I would say pretty much the same thing for Downs.
Yeah, that was one thing when it comes to the edge guys, and it happens when you're getting tired. And I know it was hot, man. It was hot. I'm not going to pretend like that wasn't a factor. It absolutely was. But not a lot of what I call just like initial wins, right? In pass rush. You know what I mean? Like, put a move on him, you beat a tackle or a guard. There was not a lot of that.
Yeah, and I thought this was smart by UTEP. They didn't, like, our Mason Thomas very rarely had a clean edge rush. It almost always got chipped or had like an offset tight end or someone there to help on the edge. And and you heard Venables talking about it after the game, that they got a ton of 7-man protection, and they did to initially slow down that rush. And we tried to run a bunch of inside games, and some of those games looked really good. Others not so much. But again, man, it's just a work in progress. It's the first game. You get to see some of it on film, and I can guarantee you that film will be coached very hard.
Yeah. So, I mean, you only give up 316 yards of offense. They only score 13 points. You give up 0.9 a rush. There's a lot to work on, no doubt, but that's a physical football team that UTEP's got. And I think the overall takeaway is this already, it feels like is a much better tackling defense for Oklahoma. I think that's the big takeaway.
Biggest takeaway for me. There's no doubt about it. And it's the explosive plays. We did not see the thing that's been frustrating for people in the past is there's going to be it's hard to play defense in this day and age, especially when there's RPOs and there's linemen 8 yards downfield. Okay, it's hard to play defense. But what frustrates people is when you've got an open opportunity to tackle a guy and you can't bring him down, and it turns into an explosive play, or whenever there's clearly some type of bust in the secondary and you've got free runners in the passing game. Neither one of those happened. And I think that's something to be really excited about. Hopefully they can continue that.
And one other thing, and we talked to Ted Roof. Plank and I talked to him about it after the game when we had him for his post-game interview. They didn't do much defensively, man. Right? Nope. There's a lot of deep zone coverage. They knew that UTEP, the only way they were going to be able to hang in that game is to throw it over their head. And they said, we're not going to let that happen. Very conservative game plan defensively for Oklahoma, and executed it at a solidly high level, in my opinion.
I don't even think UTEP was able to even get a ball downfield to test this deep, were they?
No.
Did they?
No, there wasn't one where you're like, oh, Hardison just missed it. Like, there wasn't a single one of those.
Right. Yeah.
Which is boring. Like, to watch, it's boring. I get it, but you won 45-13. So it's like,
that's what you do. And that's how it is. It's like you make them get bored to where they try and force something and force a football in, make a bad throw, make the first mistake, and that's whenever you pounce on them. And that's how it really worked out, because we would sit back and then we'd get a big sack or something, and we would really feed off of those big negative yardage plays.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk some OU offense against UTEP, and we'll start with the quarterback, Dillon Gabriel. His first game out there on Owen Field as an Oklahoma Sooner. Thought he managed the game pretty well, right? Got to see him early in the game, get loose with the legs a little bit, Ted, and that was something we talked a lot about. But he looked good running the football, man.
He did. I thought there's something about his exchange that is very difficult to read. He's really smooth with it, and he's pretty explosive whenever he pulls it and gets going to the outside. He's got some good athleticism, has a little bit of shake to him. I thought, whenever he saw that end zone, he put himself not in danger, but you knew he was going to take a hit, but got the touchdown. Outside of that, whenever he pulled it, he was really smart at the end of the runs getting down.
Yeah. And then when it comes to throwing the football, thought his accuracy was good on the day. And most of the throws, as I went back and watched it, most of the throws he missed, I mean, he was getting affected as he's throwing the football, whether a guy was hitting him, getting a hand near the ball. Like those were the throws that he missed. Missed a couple deep ones, right? The first play of the game, Tyler Guyton, and we'll get to the offensive line. Tyler Guyton, complete mental error, or else the first play of the game is a touchdown to Mims on the bomb. Like it would have been, but he's got a guy hitting him almost before he's letting it go. But I mean, when you think about the throws that he, had a clean pocket and just missed, there was one to Weiss on like a third and extra long on a deep out that he sailed. And then a couple where, he misses Farouk on the deep ball. But other than that, thought he made good decisions for the most part with the football. Thought he made good decisions in the majority of the RPO situations. Overall, I mean, you look at the stat line, really, really solid first performance for Dillon Gabriel as OU's QB.
I agree. Like that first little spear he threw to Drake Stoops was an awesome play. That was a really good looking throw. Couple of deep balls looked excellent. That deep ball to Mims was just a beautiful throw, placed perfectly. I thought he was poised. I thought he was under control. I thought he had great command of the offense. I thought it was fantastic. And again, I think it's something that's only going to get better and better as they go.
Yeah. Looking at the running back position, thought Eric Gray looked pretty good. Right now, is he as explosive as Marcus Major? I don't know. Right. I think you could see the power that Marcus Major has. I mean, the guy's powerful as hell, but Eric Gray looked sudden in some of those cuts, right? One-on-one in space, made some guys miss. With that little head fake he was using, had a few really nice runs, had a nice catch out of the backfield and a fun little concept. They go quads into the boundary, and he kind of trails this, a vertical and just kind of pops into the middle of the field. Pretty cool concept there from Levy. But overall, I mean, he looked about the way that I thought he would look. Well, talking about Eric Gray.
Yeah, I was real happy with some of the stuff that he did. He had a couple of really nice cuts in the hole where it was just him one-on-one with the backer. And those are plays last year that for whatever reason, he rarely was able to make that guy miss. And he did it over and over and over yesterday. I think he's going to have a really solid year. And yeah, I think him and Marcus Major, they're different. I think they're really complementary. I think they are. Whenever you've got a guy like Marcus Major that comes in and he's pouring it downhill and he's going to try and run through you. And the very next snap, you may have Eric Gray in there and you go up, you're trying to bring everything that you've got with you because the last back just tried to run over you and you're going to be too far over your toes and he's going to put one of those moves on you in the hole and you're going to lunge and miss. So I think it's just a real complimentary back and forth between Eric Gray and Marcus Major.
I'm feeling really good about my touchdown prediction, right? Because you talk about a guy that can bring it in those short yardage and goal line situations. And I'm sure that's annoying for Eric Gray. I get it. Like, you want to be the guy that's punching it in, but it's clear 24 should be the go-to man in those situations because there were some violent collisions when he was pouring it downhill and he was kind of dragging guys. That was man, that was fun to watch. I mean, that was really fun to watch.
Yeah, it's brutal whenever so it's supposed to end with the defense like knocking a running back. You get the positive yardage and then you get knocked back. You shouldn't be getting plowed through and drug a couple of extra yards whenever you're on defense, but that's exactly what happens whenever he runs it, man. He is low. He's got his legs churning and he brings it. He's got I don't know he's listed at like 218, 219, right? He's got to be every bit of 225 plus.
Yeah, he looking thick, looking good, certainly looking powerful. And got a little glimpse of Javonte Barnes. Can't fumble the football, young man. Don't do that. That you will be standing over with DeMarco Murray if you fumble the football. But this is a guy banged up during camp. But, man, it's clear he's got some juice, man. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
Yeah, that he he is explosive. And I just laughed thinking about UTEP. Oh God, finally the third team running back is in.
God. You don't
want that. Yeah, I think just off of the limited amount of carries he had and how much pop that he had and how much as you say, juice, he's going to get more share of the carries as we move forward. And that's the one thing you got to worry about with the young guys, ball security. How much does that dent his carries? I don't think much right out of the gate because, it didn't turn it over, but if he doesn't put the ball on the ground, I think he's going to continue to get more and more share of the snaps.
Yeah, he certainly flashed when he was touching it. There's no doubt. Okay, the wide receivers. Mims looked fast, man. I mean, he's talked a lot about how this is the best he's ever felt physically, bigger, faster, and stronger. And he could have had a bigger game than he did, right? Just barely missed him on a couple of those shots down the field, but he looked good. And I was impressed with the route running, looked crisp, looked clean, but just the thing that really stood out when you watch it kind of from the wide angle, man, he definitely looks like he's got more speed this season. I know it's early and I know it's a long season, but it stood out to me watching him that, man, it looks like he can really go right now.
Yep, I totally agree. He looked good on a couple of those returns. He's got some good bounce to his step. I think he's about to have his biggest season by far. I think he's going to be knocking on the door of 1,000, 1,100, maybe 1,200 yards receiving, which is a big accomplishment. But I think he's going to be there.
Yeah, and I love how the first play of the game is like, I just run by everybody, man. And he
Yep.
did. And if the offensive line would have blocked it up correctly, it probably would have been a touchdown, which is frustrating because that would have been a lot of fun for everyone. But looking at the other wide receivers, Farouk and Weiss, both kind of quiet games, although it was just good seeing Theo Weiss out there healthy, right? I thought he looks good physically, right? Looks a little
He
thicker.
does.
He's looking good in the jersey. Farouk, had a drop, didn't get a ton of targets, had a couple, miss him on the deep shot, had a chance on one that called pass interference kind of later in the game. But I think those guys, I thought they blocked well, which is important out on the perimeter. And Farouk just looks like a badass in those black cleats. I mean, it
Yeah,
looks fantastic. I mean, it's an
it,
awesome look. I loved it.
it is. It's very sharp. He looks good out there. Yeah, it's one of those things that there's so many guys, receivers, that are good players that we expect big things from, but it's just so hard. Everyone's not going to get a ton of opportunities in a given game. It's going to be hard. Like, I was super excited to see Jaden Gibson. Jaden Gibson didn't get in the game till the fourth quarter.
Yeah. No, I mean, he wasn't in
Did we
like
even
there.
see Nick? Did we see Nick Anderson at all?
I don't think so. I don't remember him on the field at
Yeah.
least.
Yeah.
If we
So
did, it was at the very end of the game. And
right.
you got to remember they still have to keep track of the red shirt and all that stuff. Now you got the 4-game rules, so we'll see. But yeah, one guy we got to talk about. How about Gavin Freeman's first touch as an Oklahoma Sooner?
Awesome. The dude can go, man. He's a playmaker. As Venables has been talking about him nonstop, he plays at full speed all of the time. Was a great play. He made a couple of really, really nice moves there, individual effort. But I'll tell you what, Braden Willis on that play blocks 4 people. He has
Correct.
the initial log block, right? He hooks the guy out there on the perimeter, gives the edge to Gavin Freeman, then gets a knockoff on that same block whenever a guy's trying to pursue. Then he hauls ass downfield, chases him all the way down to the 5-yard line, lays out, dives, gets a punch on a guy that knocks off the other player just enough to where he's not able to knock Gavin Freeman out on the 1-yard line. Just an exceptional play, effort play by Braden Willis, which when you watch the game, not a shock at all because he was killing people out there. It was awesome.
Yeah, and the spin by Gavin Freeman to stay up and to finish that play, that was, I mean, it was awesome. Just a really, really fun play. Braden Willis might have been the best player on the field for OU.
Yep.
Now, of course, the 2 touchdowns, that's great, right? Clearly, that's great. But what he did as a blocker, and no Daniel Parker in this game, right? So he had to do all the dirty work as a blocker, and a lot of stuff where he's leading on linebackers. I mean, did a ton of blocking in this football game, and he did his best stuff down around the goal line, where he's kind of wrapping around for the backside inside backer, and he put that dude on his back twice. on touchdowns. And my favorite part about it, and just this is kind of, stuff that I get being down there on the field, he was way more fired up about those touchdowns where he's putting dudes on their ass compared to him scoring touchdowns. Like the celebrations were completely different. Like he's losing it with the touchdowns as a blocker, and he was kind of like all calm when he was the one scoring touchdowns. It was, I thought that told you everything you need to know about Captain Willis.
Yeah, I agree. That's why post game I have to pick a player of the game with Toby, and I picked Braden Willis, and I said he had 4 touchdowns because those 2 rushing touchdowns, he had pancake blocks on the ISO on the Mike Backer, and in my opinion, that counts as a touchdown. But he had, and it wasn't just on the inside, on the outside, some of the tunnel stuff. He had a pancake block on one of Drake Stoops' catches. Just effort flying around the football field, finishing guys off, chasing the ball down the field, trying to get just a piece of someone so a wide out or a back can get an extra yard or 2. Excellent play by him, man. He was awesome.
Yeah, maybe the craziest part about his performance, man, he just never looked tired either. Like he played a ton of snaps. I don't know, and that's a testament to his work in the offseason. He was fantastic. Okay. Offensive line time. I'll start by saying this. And this is just me being real. If OU wants to win the Big 12, this group's got to get a lot better. And I know they ran for 6.8 carry. Listen, but there's a certain way it's supposed to look, and that ain't it. So this group, it's got a long way to go. A long way to go. I'll just go left to right. Tyler Guyton, I saw glimpses of why they're so excited about him. The length, the athleticism, the demeanor, the potential's there. I see it. I get it. Did some good things. But he's got to have a better understanding of, and this is a little in the weeds, but like his body balance is bad. He got pulled to the ground a lot. Yeah, just way over his toes, a ton of weight forward. And I get it. Like you want to be aggressive. You want to go knock the hell out of guys. I get it. But you have to understand leverage and balance. And he needs to, like, if I could do one thing for Tyler Guyton right now, him and we do Pilates every day together. And I know that sounds like, wait, what the hell are you talking about? But it's clear he needs to strengthen his core. He needs to learn how to strain his core and balance the rest of his body by straining it and just connecting everything and stabilizing it. He doesn't have that right now. And if he's a long levered guy, so it's hard to create all of that, but the raw materials are there, man. It's just, he needs more strength. He needs more explosiveness. He's got to stabilize his core, but plays with good effort, which, hey, if you play with good effort, man, you're gonna be able to cover up a lot of deficiencies. But I'll just be honest, it was not the type of performance I was expecting from him after all the things we had heard the coaching staff say about him. Like there were some, don't get me wrong, there were some really good moments, but there are a lot of times where I'm going, man, okay, yeah, this guy, he's a work in progress. He hasn't been playing the position for a very long time, but it's, you can see it, but man, there's some work. There's some work to be done. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I felt like a lot of his mistakes, he put himself in a bad position by mental errors, maybe not knowing exactly where he's supposed to go, just looked a little out of sync at times, like he was stepping the wrong way, or it looked like a couple of times it's pass play, he's coming like comes forward and then tries to get back to protect. Like there's some of those things in there that didn't help him, which may have been some of those first start jitters out there. But there was a couple of times where he's like hard down blocking, and then coming up to a backer where he looks really athletic. Like he
Oh yeah.
covers a lot of ground and he moves. He looked like he was moving quicker than any of the offensive linemen out there. So you do see some of those flashes for sure.
Just very, very raw
Yeah.
right now in the footwork. He's just got to tighten everything up. Kind of long and loopy with the feet at times, especially later in the football game when he was tired. You could see later in the game playing with really high pads, and he's a tall guy. Like you have to train yourself when you're that tall. You have to train yourself to play low, and it's not fun to train yourself to play low when you're that tall. But he is. I see it, but long way to go.
Yeah.
I'm concerned about left guard. I'm just going to straight up say it. I'm concerned because now, first of all, McCade Matar, I still don't know. He's hurt. He's got to be, because I've seen him practice in spring. I've seen him practice in training camp. I don't know who that guy was against UTEP. And just being down there on the field, like his demeanor, I don't think he was feeling very good. Like there's no way he's 100% after watching the game.
Yeah, there was no pop. He was
Nothing.
catching guys.
He looked miserable.
Unsure. Yeah.
And I mean, like there's no doubt in my mind, and I don't know. I haven't talked to anyone about it. There's no doubt in my mind he's not even close to 100%, because I've seen what the guy looks like when he's healthy, and he looks nothing like that guy. He was just out there holding on for dear life. So I'm not going to judge him too much off that performance, because he was kind of out there just trying his best to get in the way. And now, whatever it is, got to get healthy, right? Because the way that he played, I'm just being real. Like, you play Baylor, you play Oklahoma State, you play Kansas State, Iowa State, like it's not going to work, and they'll attack him, right? So he's got to get healthy. And then you had Robert Conjal come in, and he just did not put himself in very good spots with some of his initial footwork. And Conjal is what he is. He's backup, right? I think center's his best position by far, but he is a guy that you feel really good about. Like, if he's got a spot start, or if you got to put him out there, guy gets nicked up, or like this is the situation with Matar not looking good, or at least not looking like he felt very good. That's where Conjal's got to come in and play well. He's got to play better than he did. But this is a guy that you're supposed to be able to count on him knowing the offense inside and out, because he's a center, right? And he just put himself in some bad spots. So I was not overly impressed with what he did. He's got to be better, especially if he's going to be kind of the interior swing backup for this team. And when you get your chance, you got to play well. So that left guard position in general was clearly, as I went through and watched the tape, it was clearly a weak spot for this football team.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Us, kind of saw the same thing with him. Were you surprised we didn't see more Savion Byrd?
I watched every snap. So when the twos went in, like, that guy, he's gifted physically. You can tell. I mean, I just don't know if he knows what he's doing. Like, he caused, and I know their backups were in defensively, but like, he caused more movement in his limited number of snaps at the left guard position late in the game than Conjal and Matar caused the entire game. Like, you could see, you're just like, oh my gosh, okay, 59. Look at him using the levers, looking like, hey, this guy's coming off the rock, he's trying to inflict pain on people. If they can figure out how to get him out there with confidence, and know what he's doing, yeah, he should start at guard for this team. He should. Like when you just look at the physical tools, but there's more to it than that, man. You know, like if they can't trust him, they can't put him out there when, when the game really matters. But
Yeah.
that you talk about Pop. Whoa.
Yeah. 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 He's definitely got it. How much, okay, so you've got some concerns there. How much of it is, oh, actually, I'll let you finish up. You still got to hit Rame and Murray and Harrison.
Rame did, he looked better than the vast majority of stuff he put on tape last year. I will say that. I still I just want to beg the guy to use his hands more. Like he needs to grab people. He's still in this mode of putting hands on and pushing people away instead of grabbing them and pulling them in and making his life easy. I don't know why he wants to make his life so hard. I don't understand it. I just don't. But the physicality there is there. The effort is there. Seem to be pretty, in pretty good control and command of getting everyone on the same page. So, but he's got to get better, man. Especially some of the stuff they're doing. Kind of, I guess I'll call it inside zone on the front side. Like if they're gonna block it the way that they're blocking it, like he's got to play with lower pads. I mean, he's absolutely like if they want to generate movement with the way that they're trying to do it, he's got to get down and hit guys on their hip instead of in their shoulder pad. Like you're not moving it. If you hit the hip of a defensive tackle, that's how you're moving them. If you're playing up here around the pad, around the shoulder, you're just, I mean, you might as well not even touch him, man. So I know I'm sounding very negative right now. I'm fully aware of that, but I just have really, really high expectations for this group. So I expect Rame to continue to get better. Looking at the right guard spot, Chris Murray is solid. He's a short guy, so he plays with good pad level, right? He uses his hands well. And this was something that troubled him last year, and it's annoying for me to see it again. Like his eyes are his biggest issue. Now, because he's not going to get any taller, his arms aren't going to get any longer, right? He has to play with great eye discipline. He's got to put his eyes in the right place, especially on his double teams in the run game. Like there are too many snaps where I'm watching going, okay, where's this combination working? Why aren't you guys looking at where you're working? Like, who are you going to? There's too many of those. But I will say, just from a footwork perspective, an initial pop out of his stance perspective, I thought that Chris looked about as good as he's looked since he got to OU. And then right tackle, Anton Harrison deserves some credit because it's not easy that late in the game, right, to flip. I mean, this is a guy that's worked all offseason at left tackle. And to have to flip to right tackle basically the week of the opener, I think it's a real testament to his ability that he was able to, kind of make it work. And he's clearly stronger at the point of attack. He looked a little hesitant and uncomfortable in that right-handed stance. But this is probably the best way to say it. Compared to, when you compare what it looked like and what I expect it to look like, it wasn't very good. Because he's looked really, really good at left tackle. But I'm not going to read too much into it because I think when he flips back, it's going to look the way that it should. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously my eye on offensive line isn't specialized. I don't know what I'm looking at, but I thought like in his pass pro, he looked like a veteran. Like he looked experienced. He looked calm. Like knew where his body positioning needed to be. He trusted like his technique. Didn't like panic and reach and lunge at guys. I thought he looked good there. A really good sign that I thought is he's learning how to cheat.
Yes.
you got to learn how to cheat. And I saw a couple of veteran moves out there with some holding and spinning guys around, and
Yeah, of
started
course.
started to look like an experienced tackle.
You have to have counters when you get beat. And some of the stuff in pass pro, his hips getting a little too rotated, but I think that's a product of him playing on the right side and not having a ton of work over there. I thought he was way more proactive with his hands. He looks stronger, right? He looks like he's harder to
There's
move.
a couple of times where he's got a D end, and that guy's like doing everything he can, and he's just patient, one hand in him.
Yeah, I want to see him go back to left tackle. I really do, because then I think we'll kind of get a better understanding of what he can be. Any other things offensively? They did the thing where they looked at the sideline and snapped it twice. That was kind of fun.
Well, I like that, because it forces the defense in the future, and also in that game, you better get ready and go ahead and show what you're in, right? If you're going to try and wait it out and disguise and answer what they're doing, we're going to quick snap it on you guys. So you better go ahead and show whatever it is that you're in. So I did like that.
And one of the other things it does is, like, normally when the offense is looking to the sideline, the defense rests, right?
Yes.
Defensive linemen go to a knee, linebackers relax, stand up. Now that this is on tape, all these teams here in the near future that are prepping for OU, they're going to be saying, hey, you got to be ready. They may snap it. You got to be ready. And those guys having to stay in a stance when OU's doing that accumulates throughout a game, right? That having to stay in that stance and use that energy, it adds up. But anything else offensively? We hit a lot there, but anything else?
Well, I just wanted to ask you, like, how much does Wanye coming back at right tackle and Anton Harrison going back to left tackle, how much does that fix the offensive line issues that you saw? Like, how big of an impact would that have on it?
I think it should help quite a bit, right? Because while Guyton, like, you think about how Guyton played at left tackle, it's going to be a big upgrade with Anton over there. And not saying that Guyton's not going to be a really good player down the line. He is. He's going to be a good player down the line. But Anton, just how much sturdier he looked compared to Guyton, and he's playing out of position, or he's playing where he's a little uncomfortable there on the right side. It's going to be an upgrade at left tackle. And then with the way that Anton played at right tackle, I would expect a similar-ish level of performance from Wanye. So I think it will be an upgraded offensive line once Wanye gets back there at the right tackle spot. The left guard spot is the spot. They got to figure it out. Like,
well, that's
Matar's got to get healthy.
I was going to ask is, if you've got Harrison back at left, and would you feel more comfortable putting Bird in at left when you've got Harrison back at left tackle? Like, if you've got Guyton at left tackle, you don't want to have the blind leading the blind over there. Like, if you can have Harrison back at left, do you feel more comfortable putting Savion Bird in between him and Raym?
You would assume so, right? Two guys, Raym played a lot of football last year. Anton's played a lot of football. You lean on those guys to make sure Savion Bird knows what he's doing, right? But I mean, these jobs, time on the field is earned on the practice field. And if Savion Bird doesn't have Bill's trust because he's not practicing at a high enough level, then I don't know. But it's clear Savion Bird's got more pop than anyone that played left guard Saturday. So
this is what pisses me off about dumb things turning into suspensions and guys missing. It's not just that Wanye is missing 2 games. Now Harrison has to move from left tackle, where he's been comfortable, and go play at right tackle, which stunts his growth and his development at left and where he's comfortable, and work. Like, it makes everything fall apart, and it stunts the entire offensive line's growth. Pisses me off.
Pisses me off too, man. One other thing, what a transition! What a perfect transition that I think we got to talk about. We have the crowd, right? Most notably the student section, and I know it was hot. I hope everyone is all good. I go underneath to go see my wife and my son. Go up and see them. They're on the east side. I was walking underneath. There are a lot of people getting medical attention in those little areas. So I hope everyone's good. I know it was hot. I get it. And I'm asking this sincerely. Like, I know it was UTEP. What needs to be done to encourage students to stay longer at the games? I'm asking. Like, I'm not, I don't want to be the old guy saying you guys need to stay. I want to know what can OU seriously, like, what can they do that would encourage them to stay? Because when you've got students, when it's 21-10 and you've got students leaving in the middle of the second quarter, like, it's discouraging. And don't think that the players and the coaches and everyone doesn't notice that. I'm asking, like, what can OU do? Like, is it $2 beer? Like, what is it? What can they do? Because the 11 a.m. kickoffs were too early, right? Now the 2:30 is too hot. The 6 p.m. Yeah, we want to get to the bars. It's too late. Like, tell me what OU can do to get these students to stay. Like, I'm sincerely asking. I want to know what can be done.
I think the only thing that can be done is there has to be a compelling game in front of them. And I know there was a lot of excitement about the opener, but you score real fast and everyone says, well, this thing's over. They're baking there on the east side. I'm not making excuses, but I think the only thing you could do is there's got to be something compelling going on the field. And if there's not, it's going to be incredibly difficult to keep students' attention. And that's not just OU students, that's everyone. Like, I go back to that Pitt West Virginia game, and that was an awesome atmosphere. And the only thing I could think of is everyone I saw was holding a beer, and it was a compelling game. It was a tight game from start to finish. So that helped. I mean, I don't know.
So the answer is don't schedule UTEP.
No.
Don't schedule Kent State.
The answer is I don't know. I wish I had something.
Yeah. It's just, if you're an OU student, like, send some suggestions our way and we'll try to relay it, because, and I know we bring up a lot of, when we get to the SEC, like, but it's true. And don't think that you, like, the Oklahoma football team is going to need that student section at some point this year. So I don't know. It's just, but it's impossible not to notice during the game.
I know, because you have a gaping hole right in the area where you kind of need it the most, right behind the visitors bench. I say, like, if at some point you start moving the student section to a different area, if they're going to continue to bail with those premium seats, that's a good spot where we need it, send them somewhere else.
I don't know, man. But it's frustrating. I feel like it's just frustrating for everyone. So we'll, I don't know. All right. Birthday shout outs, or wait, did I skip Call Your Shot? We haven't done Call Your Shot, have we?
No.
Okay. Call Your Shot. We asked you guys biggest takeaway from OU's win over UTEP. This is a great one. It comes from Jonathan Fazakis. In the locker room, seeing Coach Venables get choked up is an assurance that he loves his players and we have our guy. That was, if you haven't seen it, Joe Castiglione and Joe Harris presented Brent Venables with the game ball because it's his first win as a head coach. And our guy got a little choked up, man. It was awesome. That was so cool.
No, it was awesome. There's a whole lot that has to happen to get to this moment and to get that first W. It's emotional. It was a great time, and it was a big win. But I can assure you, just especially listening to the coaches post game, that's going to be what type of coaching session that's going to be. They're not going to be light on these guys after that game.
Yeah. All right, let's get to birthday shout outs. Happy first birthday to Perry West.
Happy 5th birthday to Andrew Henson.
Okay, we've got a late edition 5th birthday, Ted. Happy birthday to Braxton Johnson.
Nice. Happy 9th birthday to Violet Shirley.
Happy 26th birthday to Price Hedenreich.
Wow, nicely done. Happy 28th birthday to Jeffrey Morton.
Happy 28th birthday to Sydney Robles.
Happy 38th birthday to Joe Newman.
Happy 67th birthday to Karen Javine.
Yes. Javine is what I was thinking.
All right. I'm going back on Sydney Robles. Is it Robles? It's got to be Robles, right? This is the hardest thing we do on this podcast. It's easy to talk about football, reading people's birthday. This is the hardest thing we do.
Hard to tell. I think you just stick with the way you said it. I think that was good.
All right. Let's get to the National College Football Roundup. But first, the only place to stop when you're road tripping is Love's Travel Stops. Love's has over 600 locations in 41 states, offering 24-hour access to clean and safe places. Whatever your road trip needs are, Love's has it. Fuel, fresh food, all the snacks and drinks, including, yes, my favorite, Java Amore. The coffee is fantastic. Love's also has you covered if you forget your phone charger or headphones. They've expanded their mobile to-go zone so you can grab any of that stuff there. Make sure you download the Love's Connect app for exclusive offers from today's most popular brands. The Love's Connect app also includes a route planner and store locator. When you see that red neon heart on the highway, stop in and say hi at Love's Travel Stops. For a full list of what Love's has to offer, visit loves.com.
And Opolis Clothing is the exclusive home for all of our Oklahoma Breakdown merchandise. If you want to live your life in buttery soft comfort, go to opolisclothing.com. That's OPOLIS clothing.com. Use promo code TED, TED, for 10% off your entire order. You still get a discount on all the OU and OKC Thunder gear as well. That's opolisclothing.com. Use promo code TED for 10% off. Buttery soft and 10% off.
And make sure you send your kids to Bishop McGinnis Catholic High School. Bishop McGinnis Catholic High School has a long tradition of educational excellence. With a 12-to-1 student-to-teacher ratio, no student is overlooked. Bishop McGinnis's college prep curriculum offers 22 AP courses. There are numerous clubs and organizations for students to join. And as a proud member of the OSSAA, there are 14 sports offered. If you want to provide the best possible educational and spiritual development for your children, contact Bishop McGinnis Catholic High School or visit bmchs.org. Remember, financial aid is available. All right, National College Football Roundup. Let's recap some of the biggest games from week 1. Number 11, Oregon against number 3, Georgia. And oh my God, that was a thorough ass kicking. We were wrong about this one, man. This game was not close. We thought Oregon would be able to battle at the line of scrimmage with Georgia. Ted, we were very, 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 very wrong. Whoa.
Yeah.
49-3.
And
it could have been way worse. Georgia called the dogs off in the 4th.
That is not what I expected going in. Oregon outmatched, outclassed. Stetson Bennett was excellent. The offense for Georgia was probably for me was the most surprising part of that, putting up those type of numbers, smooth, efficient. Yeah, Oregon, that is a humbling experience to go Dan Lanning back to Atlanta with the number 11 Oregon team and face that. That was brutal.
Yeah, and got the bad Bo Nix. Was not very effective in the passing game, threw a atrocious interception. Oregon didn't do much in the running game either. It's just Georgia's defense lost all those guys. So you said, okay, something's got to give, right? All those first rounders. No, the Georgia's defense looked like a freak show again. And then Georgia's offense, they could just do whatever they wanted to Oregon's defense. Yep. I mean, you mentioned it. Stetson Bennett looked good. They ran it well with Kendall Milton and Kenny McIntosh. McIntosh was just a monster catching the ball out of the backfield. I mean, they just destroyed Georgia. Ladd McConkey looks like about the fastest little white wide receiver I've ever seen. I mean, Georgia, they look like the best team in the country. I mean, they were dominant at the line of scrimmage, just all kinds of speed at the skill position. Stetson Bennett, I watched a little bit of Bama against Utah State. I mean, not going to learn much from that one, but for Georgia to come out with all the change that they've had and to smack Oregon like this, I mean, I think they should be number one. This was an ass kicking of epic proportions. I mean, if you didn't watch it, you see the score, it wasn't even close. The score would have been way worse if Kirby Smart didn't like Dan Lanning.
So much for the championship hangover, right?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they came out on fire, ready to go. And I'm with you that they should definitely be number 2 if they're not number 1. How about Stetson Bennett, man, coming out and playing the way he did against Oregon? He's got a million reasons to question himself and maybe lack confidence, but he keeps plugging through and proving the naysayers wrong. He was excellent. They're going to be.
I keep forgetting. He's got some wheels too.
Yeah,
he can do some stuff with his feet. So man, just about as dominant of a performance as you'll see in a week 1 marquee game. My goodness, Georgia's going to be a problem. All right. Number 7, Utah went to the Swamp and lost to the Florida Gators. Florida wins 29-26. Ted, you tried to talk me into Utah. We did TV together on Friday. I reconvinced myself and picked Florida to win. I feel like a genius.
It was a good pick. What a football game though, man. That was probably the most physical game that I saw all day. Utah and Florida were just punishing each other and came down to the very end. And a poor decision, frankly, by Cam Rising, who had played really good the entire night, didn't need to make that throw at that time. No reason to risk that with where they sat in the football game and what was going down. But an awesome play there by Florida defensively to get the interception to win it. I think both of those teams are going to be really good. Here's the interesting thing. Utah lost to Florida, but that loss doesn't eliminate them from the playoff.
No.
Oregon lost to Georgia, and that loss totally eliminates them from the playoff.
Yes.
You cannot, there's no way you're going to be able to justify anything after that.
There's no coming back from that ass whooping. There's no coming back. So, yeah, unfortunate for Lanning at Oregon, but the Utah Florida game, the second half of that game was awesome. And Anthony Richardson is electric.
Yeah.
I mean, how fun is that guy to watch? And just an absurd athlete at that size. I mean, and everyone's talking about the rushing touchdowns. He had 3 of them, the way that he was able to sling it, the pump fake swirly bird thing he did on the 2-point conversion. Never seen that. That was incredible. But I mean, the first drive of the game, like Florida's going right down the field. They fumble, and it looks like Utah's DB is going to scoop and score. And Anthony Richardson just runs him down and knocks it like 15 yards out of bounds. I was just like, oh my God. I mean, Ted, I don't even know how you defend a guy like that. Like if he throws the ball accurately, I don't know what you do. He is a freak show.
You don't do anything really. You just pray. You pray that you can make some plays in the passing game and contain him enough where his legs don't absolutely kill you. But quarterbacks that are that explosive and that athletic and talented, that can do both, that can beat you with the run and the pass, you just hold on for dear life. That's about all you could do.
Yeah, and Florida's running game looked good too. I mean, I really liked how those zone schemes looked. Some of the boot stuff they built off of it, getting Richardson out on the edges. I thought Billy Napier's game plan was smart, right? That he ran it at the edges of Utah's defense, didn't try, to run it. A lot of inside zone stuff, stretched them, made them play in space. I still can't believe Cam Rising made that throw, though. I mean, he played so well up to that point, not only as a passer, but using his legs. But I have no idea what he was looking at. The guy was double covered. At the very least, that game should have gone to overtime. I bet you if they hand it to Tavion Thomas, and I know the timeout situation was what it was, but man, Florida's defense was not stopping that running game from Utah. They probably could have handed it to Thomas at there, and he probably would have scored, and they would have won. Yeah. But just can't make that mistake.
Nope. And it was uncharacteristic because he's money. He's a really good quarterback. That was just the moment, trying to force something in there, trying to win it, and you just didn't have to do it at that time. Frustrating for them, but like I said, I don't think that eliminates them from anything. All that does is kind of announce to the rest of the world and the SEC that Florida is going to be dangerous this year.
Yeah, Anthony Richardson's ridiculous. I mean, he's going to be, and there's an argument. We'll see how the season unfolds, but he is going to be must-see TV.
Yep.
He is, it's like if Cam Newton and Vince Young had a baby. It's fun to watch, man. And I'm with you on Utah. I think that they can still play their way back into this thing. But I will say they got a couple tight ends that are really fun to watch. Like there's a lot to like about Utah, but ultimately just an absolutely massive win for Billy Napier in his opener. I mean, just huge.
Yeah, that for an opener, like your first win, that's big time. That's big time to knock off a number 7 Utah. And that is a legit number 7. I think Utah is that good. I got no problem with them being ranked where they are. So to get that win, that is a legitimate big time win for Florida, and something that they're going to be able to really build on there with that program. And he's the type of coach that takes something like this in the proper direction. I think Florida's going to be, they're in good hands right now with Napier.
Yeah. And there were some people questioning kind of the clock management at the end of that game, but hey, it all ended up working out for him. So it's a huge win for Florida. I'm sure that they will catapult in the rankings after Anthony Richardson and that show he put on. So we'll see, but I will not be shocked if they're like 15th this week in the AP poll. Okay, it was the headliner of week 1. Number 5 Notre Dame went to number 2 Ohio State, and the Buckeyes get a 21-10 win. Now good teams win, but great teams cover. Ted, look at the Irish go. But I went back and watched this entire game Sunday morning. It almost felt like an NFL game. I mean, a lot of talent on the field, lots of punts, field position mattered a lot, like some momentum swing. Like it felt very National Football League to me. But the funny part about it is people seem to complain a lot about the fact that when, these big time games happen, and usually it's in the college football playoff in the semifinals, like they complain about the big blowouts. Like, we want more competitive games between the top teams. Like, why can't we get more competitive games? And then we actually get one, and people are like, what the hell's wrong with Ohio State's offense? Like, what's their problem? And Jackson Smith and Jigba being banged up early in that game certainly didn't help, but it was just a competitive physical football game. Like, and I know it's weird for people to watch that, but that's what it was.
I thought it was fantastic.
I bet you loved it.
Yeah, I thought Notre Dame played really well, forcing that game to kind of stay in their wheelhouse. Kept Ohio State from turning it into a up and down the field type of game. I was, even though they didn't put up many points, I still thought Notre Dame's offense, that was the biggest question mark for me. And I saw some flashes there that they have a chance to be pretty decent, but the real win here goes to Ohio State's defense, right? That they were not good a year ago, and Ryan Day makes the move, gets rid of the defensive coordinator, hires Knowles, who comes in, and they, in first game out, playing a top 5 Notre Dame team to hold them to 10 points. Really, really impressive stuff. I thought Ohio State's defense looked really good. And, I guess I feel different than most people. I feel like winning this game in the fashion that they did makes Ohio State a more dangerous team than I thought they were previously.
I completely agree with that. Like, they won ugly. They won a physical game, right? It wasn't all just like space and speed. Like, they dominated the fourth quarter of this game. I mean, they ran it all over Notre Dame in the fourth quarter. And man, what was it, like 95 yards, 7+ minutes off the clock? Like, that is impressive stuff against a team like Notre Dame. And that running back combo of Henderson and Williams, whew, I mean, that's tough stuff, man. But CJ Stroud, he was pretty efficient in the game, missed some throws. I did think he made some really nice throws on the move when he was kind of had to flee the pocket, had some really nice throws. Mentioned Smith and Jigba being banged up. Clearly, you lose arguably the best wide receiver in college football, and he just, that takes away from your offense. But I will say, Emeka Egbuka, that guy's good. He's gonna be their next star at wide receiver. Yep. And I thought Ohio State won a style of game that it feels like they've struggled with recently, right? Kind of a defensive, physical, who can run it better, who can control field possession type game. Like, I feel like that's a game they've struggled with. And ultimately, they played an opener against the top 5 football team. They dominated the fourth quarter where they ran the hell out of the football, and they won. And a lot of people are going to be like, what's wrong with the offense? It's silly, man.
Yeah. I like the opening week, really like the opening 3 weeks of college football is tough because if you're an Ohio State fan, you see teams that are your main competition, like a Georgia or an Alabama, go out and score all kinds of points against their opponents. And I know Utah State is not what Oregon is, but there's such a discrepancy between the competition. Don't worry about that. Worry about the game you're watching, and you're watching 2 really good teams. And the fact that you can get it done in a way that you couldn't have got it done a year ago with your defense, should be happy about that.
Yeah. All right, let's finish up with our winners and losers of the weekend. But first,
Oh
scrolling,
no.
scrolling.
Scrolling.
I'm
Oh my
leaving it
gosh.
in.
I had
Um,
the wrong thing pulled
oh
up. It's
no.
time to get back out on the golf course, people. And there's nothing better to drink on the course than the number one seltzer in golf. Clubby Seltzers. Clubby Seltzers is an Oklahoma company that's already winning national awards because their product is delicious. It tastes exactly like a club special, but it's a seltzer. They're not just for the golf course either. They're perfect to drink by the pool, after mowing the lawn, at the tailgate, whatever. If you haven't tried Clubby Seltzers, go grab some. You won't regret it. The variety pack is out. They've got new flavors. To find a place near you that has Clubbies, visit clubbyseltzers.com.
And attention, business owners, you need Insurica in your life. Insurica is one of the country's largest insurance brokers with 30 offices throughout Oklahoma, Texas, and the Southwest. Insurica is able to customize programs by accessing the latest information from many insurance carriers. They compare and contrast coverage offerings and pricing in order to design a cost-effective, comprehensive program to meet your business's specific needs. Insurica's clients become best-in-class businesses by working with Insurica's team of advisors to manage risk. Purchasing insurance is only one way to protect your business. Best-in-class businesses win by avoiding a loss in the first place. If your business partners with Insurica, you'll save huge amounts of money and take back control of your total cost of risk. I'm an Insurica client, and you should be too. If your business wants to be best in class, connect with Insurica at insurica.com. That's INSURICA.com.
Are you looking to buy or sell a house in the OKC metro area? Use the Ronaldo Cloud Group. Stacia Ronaldo and Maddie Cloud are with Sage Sotheby's International Realty. They believe in prompt communication, an honest relationship, and luxury service. And that's exactly what they gave Gabe. They sold a house for Gabe. They found a house for Gabe's brother. And they also found a house for Lane Johnson. We can't recommend them enough. You can reach them by calling or texting Stacia at 918-671-6450, or you can contact them on Instagram at sold by Stacia and at sold by Maddie _.
As always, Ted, kick us off. Who do you have as your winner of the weekend?
Iowa. It takes a special skill to be able to win a football game by kicking a field goal and getting 2 safeties. Not only does it take a special program to be able to do that, it takes a special program to not have a single game-changing player at quarterback for about as long as I can remember, at least 20 plus years. And Iowa's been a good, solid program. I mean, there's years where they're, right there, top 10, fringe top 10 for big portions of the season. No game changer at quarterback. I wonder how good would they be if they ever got someone that could make some plays, run the football a little bit, use their legs, get outside the pocket, push the ball down the field. But hey, to be able to win a game only kicking a field goal on offense, it's impressive. It doesn't happen very often.
Spencer Petras, 11 of 25, 1 interception, a QBR of 1.1.
Hey,
So if you did not see any of the Iowa San Diego State game, Iowa won 7-3. They scored 7 points via field goal and 2 safeties.
right.
It was disgusting.
Only if it was San Diego State. It was actually South Dakota State.
South Dakota State. Sorry. The Jackrabbits.
Right. But that makes it worse.
SDSU, the Jackrabbits.
Yeah.
That was because I watched the highlights of it. That was tough. That was a tough watch.
The highlights?
I just don't
think it's a tough watch. It's tough putting together the highlights of that football game.
That's tough duty for whoever has to put those together. But the confusing part is, and we talked about this when Ferentz named Petras the starter, How can they not get a transfer portal QB? They've got a really good defense. Really good. They've had a really good defense the last couple years. How can they not get someone from the portal? Like, they should call out of Hudson Card right now and say, "Hey, man, you want to come?" Like, somebody.
The quarterback at UTEP, Hardison, is way better than anything that they've had there in a long time.
Oh, yeah. Give him a call, Ferretz. I mean, it's unbelievable.
The game was 5-3 for a long time.
Just unbelievable.
And South Dakota State, their quarterback, I don't know if he tore his ACL. He got hurt bad in that game fairly early on. So it was the backup quarterback. That was just crazy. But hey, they're the winner because it takes a special skill. I don't know how you do it, but amazing stuff by Iowa.
166 yards of total offense for Iowa. I mean, good.
Not against Wisconsin, not against Michigan, not against Ohio State, South Dakota State.
At least,
all due respect to South Dakota State.
At least it was South Dakota State, not South Dakota.
Right.
Because South Dakota State's the good one. So
right.
All right. Who do you have as your loser of the weekend other than Iowa fans who had to watch that game?
Oh, man. Can you imagine? Now, that is a sports radio host dream right there, is to play a game like that, because, buddy, that following week, people are going to be lighting up the phone lines. I had to go. I thought about going with the punter from UCLA. Did you see that punt block?
Oh my gosh. What was that?
I don't know, but a player came free up the middle and just plowed directly into the punter like a bulldozer, carried him, pushed him all the way back like 5 yards, and someone just picked up the ball and walked into the end zone. That was amazing. But I ended up going with Quinn Ewers, who got the win, and Texas looked pretty good against UL Monroe, but somehow Quinn Ewers' car got towed during the football game. How does that happen?
I don't know. I'm guessing that Quinn Ewers drives a really sweet car. That you would assume.
Right?
You would assume, like, does he not have a parking permit? Like, is there not player parking?
I would think that there's a secured player parking during the game. I never had a parking permit when I was at OU, but there was a secured parking area for the players on game day, like where we parked. And it's not like where you show, it's like where you go the day before and you get on the buses and you go to the hotel and everything. So I don't know. I was shocked by that. I thought that was, I mean, hilarious. Is just very, very interesting. I don't know how that happens, but I haven't seen much of those highlights, but sounds like Texas looked pretty decent.
Yeah, he threw an interception, but man, they've got guys, and you're only going to learn so much against Louisiana Monroe. But I mean, Bijan Robinson's a dude. Xavier Worthy's a dude. Like, we're going to learn a lot about that team because they get Bama this week. Oh boy. So we'll see how it goes, right? You talk about a measuring stick game for Steve Sarkisian and for Texas football, but yeah, Ewers looked fine, right? He looked fine in his debut.
Kirby Smart and Oregon is kind of going to be like the same situation here with Alabama and Texas, right? Don't you think Saban is going to prove a point here before Texas transitions to the SEC?
I would assume Nick Saban wants to win 100-0.
Yeah. I don't think they're going to call the dogs off. I think they're going to absolutely bury Texas.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see, but we know Bama likes going into the state of Texas and taking the top players out of that state. So yeah, they're going to try to embarrass Texas, and we'll see if Texas lets them.
This isn't a game that's just a big non-conference game. This is, in Saban's mind, this is a very strategic football game for representation in the state of Texas in recruiting.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, let's get to my winner and loser. But first,
First Fidelity Bank is a full-service financial institution based in Oklahoma with tailored solutions for all your personal and business needs. Checking accounts, savings accounts, home loans, and much more. They do it all. Whether it's online banking from your computer or mobile banking from your phone, everything is stress-free with FFB. Making mobile deposits, paying bills online, and moving money to different accounts could not be easier. First Fidelity Bank provides free ATMs worldwide, making banking convenient wherever you are. They also give back to the community. FFB donates a total more than $500,000 to local charities and educational foundations. Make your life easier and go bank with First Fidelity Bank. Visit ffb.com for more information.
and if you're a whiskey or bourbon drinker, stop what you are doing, head to your favorite liquor store and buy some Balcones products. You got to grab some of Balcones Lineage single malt whiskey. It was voted one of the top 20 whiskeys in the world by Whiskey Advocate, and you'll be shocked by how affordable it is. Also, you got to snag some of Balcones Baby Blue Corn whiskey.
It's made from blue corn. That's the fancy corn.
And that is why it has won more than 25 awards. Last but certainly not least, you got to buy some of Balcones Pot Still Bourbon. Its big flavors make it the perfect bourbon to drink year round. Remember, in 2012, Balcones Single Malt won the Best in Glass competition, beating brands like Johnny Walker and Macallan. This stuff is the real deal, people. If you love great whiskey and bourbon at a great price, then Balcones products are the only way to go. The whiskey may be made in Texas, but the owners, yeah, they're from Oklahoma. To find a liquor store that has it, visit balconesdistilling.com. All right, for my winner of the weekend, I know I'm not supposed to compliment anything when it comes to USC, especially the defense under Alex Grinch. Like, I understand that. But, and I understand Rice is off. They are. But they won 66-14, which is a good start, right? Under Lincoln Riley. But the defense, they weren't great in the first half. Rice moved the ball pretty well. But they did end up having 4 interceptions, and 3 of them were pick sixes against Rice. That
helps out.
That helps out. That certainly helps out. 3 pick sixes. That's very hard to do. So I'm going to give them a compliment because that's very hard to do, Ted. Is that okay? Can I do that?
You can do that. Impressive. Doesn't happen very often. And when it does, I'm trying to remember. I think we talked about this one time. Scoring a touchdown on defense or on special teams in a game is almost impossible to lose the game at that point. Statistically, like, the edge you get in winning a game when you score on defense or special teams is insane. You do it 3 times. Yeah, that's something incredible.
Yeah, but my winner of the weekend, and the timing was annoying, but it's still exciting. The 12-team playoff, college football playoff expansion. It's coming. We knew it would come eventually, but it is coming. Now, the timing, not great by the CFP board of managers. Would have liked to just been able to focus on the games in week 1. But the fact that we're getting the 12-team playoff is awesome. And they did the right thing because we are getting home college football playoff games. CFP games on college campuses like the good Lord intended. So
this is the single greatest development in the history of college football.
It is
home playoff games.
It is going to create some of the best atmospheres we've ever seen in this sport. And I can't wait. Now, not going to hold my breath that this is going to get done before 2026 because, right, these presidents of these universities said, all right, commissioners, work together and handle it. Okay. Yeah, we've seen how that has gone. And, this is something that the ball on this should have gotten rolling a long time ago, right? We're literally doing the exact thing that Greg Sankey and Bob Bowlesby and that committee recommended. It's silly. But Kevin Warren and Jim Phillips and George Kliavkoff, they threw their temper tantrum, and here we are. We're right where we should have been in the first place. So,
yeah, the Big Ten said, we don't care anymore. We're rich. We do whatever you guys
we're
want.
rich. Did you see our TV deal? We're so rich.
Yeah,
But
we don't care. 10, 12, 18, doesn't matter to us.
yeah, whatever. And one of the main thoughts, because I do think, the 5 through 8 seeds having a home playoff game is massive, right? It's huge for the school. When you think about revenue generation, it's huge for the community, right? That's another home game for all the bars, the restaurants, the hotels. Like,
and a huge one. Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be massive for those communities. I wonder how they're going to compensate the 4 teams that get a bye, because they're not going to get that, which it almost feels like you get the bye. The bye is a great thing, right? You're getting to rest, but missing out on all of that, if you're that community, you know what I mean? Like, it feels like, it feels like they're almost being punished for getting a bye.
I know it is strange. Now, back whenever it was first proposed, and I lost my freaking mind the first time I heard this, I was like, what? Yes, this is awesome. They threw out that the ticket sales, concession sales, in stadium revenue that's produced in these games just goes into the pot that everyone shares. So even though you're not going to be able to host, like hosting a game, like for the university isn't necessarily going to be like, it's not like you get to keep all of that extra money. Now, all of the stuff around the stadium, absolutely. But I think like tickets, concession, that type of stuff in the stadium goes into the pot for everyone to share that's in the playoff, or however they break that down.
Yeah, I'm sure. No, let's go with creative accounting. Yeah, some creative accounting.
We couldn't sell any tickets.
We couldn't sell them.
Stadium was empty.
Yeah, but it's going to be interesting to see how that entire thing works. I do want to say something, because this is exciting. I think this continues to make the regular season matter. I don't really understand the arguments that people say it's going to matter less. It's stupid. I think this is going to make games in November matter even more. It's going to give fan bases more hope. Like, this is going to make more fan bases more engaged for longer into the season, which is how the game grows, which is how you grow the sport. And that's very, very important. Ted, let me know what I'm missing, because there are several people that work in college football media that are complaining about expansion. I do not understand. What am I missing?
I don't know. I've racked my brain over this for years, because I heard the same thing going from the BCS to the 14 playoff, is that it devalues the regular season. And I just can't wrap my head around the concept. A lot of times when someone throws an idea at me, I can either agree or disagree, but I can usually see like where it, like the intention, but I don't even understand how it could devalue the regular season. It doesn't make any sense. It makes the regular season more important to more teams. And the more important it is to more teams, the more important it is to your team. Because because there's 12 teams, now all of a sudden your home game against Baylor doesn't count as much, doesn't mean as much. What? Every game means everything anyways. I just don't understand. I can't grab that concept. The other thing that I don't understand, and it's totally wrong. Like, one of the big complaints about the 14 playoff is the blowout games, right?
Right.
And so you say, well, 12 teams, now those games are going to be even worse. No, they're going to be better. Why are they going to be better? Well, because the top teams aren't going to be playing like the first time you'd have 4 byes, right?
Right.
And the 4 byes, like the other games, like outside of the top 4, that's who's playing. And those games are going to be awesome, because they're once you get outside of the top tier, it's really hard, right, for those teams to compete with the top tier teams. Like whenever you look at the bracket breakdown, you're going to have a ton of incredible football games. If you go back and apply the 12-team playoff to last year, how it ended, you would have amazing games all the way through. So, and who cares if they're blowouts, right? That doesn't even matter. They're great matchups in a great environment. There's going to be more of them. This is going to keep players from the top teams from bouncing to go to the draft. No one cares about the bowl system anymore. I'm sorry. There's a lot of nostalgia around the bowl system. And, I went to some bowl games and they were great experiences. But no one cares about that anymore if it's not in the playoff. And that was a byproduct of the 14 playoff. And, maybe if you could ever go back and change that, then you could keep the bowl system. But once you went to the 14 playoff, it made everything else irrelevant. This is the way to make those games important again. They're going to add them into the second round is going to be the New Year's Six, right? And how that worked.
Yep.
I think it's all just, it is positive for college football in a million different ways.
And one of the arguments like, well, the same teams are going to win the national title.
So,
yeah. I mean, now, one thing we don't know is how more access to the playoff will affect recruiting, especially the top talent in recruiting classes. Because right now, you look at the top players, I mean, Bama, Georgia, Ohio State, like a lot of those top 10, 15 guys are going to a handful of schools. We don't know. We can assume, but we don't know how the top players in the country, like how this will affect, like more access. Will this be a reason that a guy who lives in Florida chooses Florida now instead of Alabama? Like, we don't know. So,
right.
Like, it's going to take time to know how more access to the playoff will affect recruiting, which will then affect the talent level of rosters across the country. Now, the teams that are investing just unbelievable amounts of money into the program, like, they're going to continue to be the top tier teams, right? Bama, Georgia,
Sure.
Ohio State, Oklahoma, like the teams that are really investing the money, like that's not going to change. But people act like they know how this is going to affect that stuff. Like, we don't know. It's going to take time to see what happens.
Well, and here's the other thing. I don't know exactly how the calendar on this is going to work. But if you look at the current situation, the 14 playoff, right around December 1, 2, or 3 is whenever the SEC, Big 12, like the championship games are, conference championship games, right?
Yeah, that first weekend in December usually.
Right. And then you don't play the first round of the playoff currently until like the last weekend in December. You got 4 weeks of prep, right? You got 4 weeks to prep for 3 teams. Like you're going to do your main prep on who you're playing, and then you'll start to like do some evaluation on the other team. When you have a 12-team playoff, and I'm assuming it's going to be a reseeded after every round, right? To where
I feel like it's bracket style. Like
okay.
The bracket's set and it is what it is. I feel that's how I understood it, but I mean, it's not that big of a deal. I would want it to be reseeded, but I think if I understood the release right, it's like the bracket's the bracket once it's released.
Well, even if that's the case, you are the calendar is going to be moved up. You're not going to have 4 weeks to prepare for one team, which is a massive advantage for the teams like Alabama, like the teams that are already the most talented, right? To have that long of a preparation time. When you don't know who you're going to play and there's less time in between these games, it takes some of that major bias or lean or favor to those top teams.
Yeah. So it's exciting. And for anyone that covers college football and is saying, oh, this is awful, expansion's stupid. Well, it's going to bring more money into the sport, which hopefully, as you know, it's guys that cover college football, hopefully means we all get paid more money. So if you really want to take a stance when you renegotiate the contract, say, no, I don't want more money. I keep my salary the same because this expansion is ridiculous. If you want to make a true stand, do it that way, gentlemen.
Opt out of the pay raise with the playoff money.
Yeah. All right. For my loser of the weekend, thought about going with that poor East Carolina kicker, man. Oh my gosh. Owen Daffer just roughed snap hooks at extra point that would have tied East Carolina and NC State at 21 with like 3 minutes to go. But then had a chance for redemption, had a chance to be a hero from 41 yards. Pushes it. I mean, just the look on his face after I felt for that young man, Ted. That was a brutal performance for Owen Daffer.
It's a tough position to be in as kicker. I understand. That's why I think field goals and extra points should be eliminated from the game. They're ridiculous. I don't know how you can play 60 minutes of smash mouth, slobber knocking football and have it be decided by a 130-pound guy that's been standing on the sideline the whole time. But hey, it's the sport we created.
Well, maybe if Owen hears that, it'll make him feel better.
Have you ever did I send you that Larry David or did you send me the Larry David thing talking about eliminating field goals? Is that you?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. I also thought about going with UCLA. Did you see that crowd?
Yeah, if you want to call it a crowd.
So they announced a record low attendance at the Rose Bowl, 27,143. And there is no way in hell there were even 5,000 people at that football game. And I get I guess it was 100 degrees in Los Angeles. So I don't care. That is, and I will say when OU went and played UCLA in the Rose Bowl a couple years back, it was the most underwhelming environment I've ever been in. Ever. When it comes to college football.
That game felt like a training camp practice where two teams meet up and practice together. It was bad.
It was, and congrats, Big Ten. Congrats on getting the mighty UCLA brand.
What did you see? Did USC have a good crowd?
I think they were like 60-ish thousand. It wasn't great. Like it wasn't full. That's a big stadium. I mean, it is, but it was way better than what UCLA had. But listen, I get it's hot. California, we were all at the beach in the water, cooling down. Okay, whatever, man. I mean, whatever. But it was, USC's wasn't great, but UCLA's, that was pathetic, man. I mean, absolutely pathetic.
Well, that's why they got that punt blocked on their first series of the game and gave up a touchdown. At least no one was there to see it.
Yeah, at least no one saw it. My loser of the week, though, UTSA. They had Houston. They absolutely had them. 14-point lead in the second half. Let it slip away. Ended up losing in triple overtime on a really, really fun play by Clayton Tune there. The Houston QB went airborne for it. They got into one of the 2-point conversion shootout things that are now a thing in college football. But Tune did a little bit of everything for Houston. But just seeing Jeff Traylor's interview after the game, I mean, the Roadrunners are going to be sick that they let this one get away. Especially, I thought Frank Harris, their QB, he did a lot of really good things, put on a show for people there at the Alamo Dome. But Traylor's comments after the game, you talk about a coach taking it hard and putting the blame on himself. So what happened was UTSA stopped Houston on like a 4th and 1, pretty late in the third quarter. So it would have been turnover on downs, but they got called for illegal substitution. And Traylor after the game basically, so Houston goes on to score on that drive, cuts the deficit to, I believe, 7 at that point, and Houston really kind of just kept rolling from there. And Traylor said after the game, this is the quote right here: "The mistake is one I will never forgive myself over the rest of my coaching career. We had such a great opportunity here at the Dome. The head ball coach let it slip away."
Brutal.
Talk about a coach
Now,
taking it hard, man. Damn. Now he's also got like
what
a
was
10-year
the
contract, so he's probably not that concerned.
Yeah, well, if he's not going to be there very much longer if they keep playing the way that they have been. That program is pretty dadgum good.
Yeah.
And Texas better watch out in a couple of weeks. What was the substitution penalty? A guy trying to get off the field late?
I think so. I tried to like go back and watch it, and yeah, that's what it looked like.
Here's the thing, and I think we've talked about this before. If you've got a defensive lineman that is sprinting off the field as hard as he can before the other team snaps the ball, if the guy is not trying to participate in the snap, it shouldn't be a penalty, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it should be illegal if you've got like 12 guys in the huddle or 12 guys lined up that participate in the play. But if you're jogging a guy off or running a guy off that's not trying to have an impact and doesn't run into anyone, doesn't touch anyone, it shouldn't be a penalty. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. It's a really tough way. Now, there was a lot of football that was played after that drive. I mean, they had a chance to win the game, but yeah, just a tough loss for the old Roadrunners to swallow. And yeah, Dana's going to be doing some tough coaching, right? Because there's some high expectations for Houston.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a fun football game. All right, episode 246 in the books. We'll have a new podcast that'll drop Wednesday. Just a reminder, you can hear Teddy from 3 to 6 on 94.7 The Ref. You can hear me from 2 to 5 on Sirius XM Big 12 Radio, channel 375. Hope you all have a great week. Until next time, we appreciate y'all for listening, and do what you always do, Oklahoma. Take care of each other.